Oh, hold on. Sorry. There.
So I'm sure you've already heard the news, but did you know that when you book a hotel room or a cruise or a flight through those many online portals, you're paying a fee that includes a travel agent? That's right. You're paying a travel agent. It's baked into the price. The news flash that you need to take away is the nightmare is that you paid for a personal travel assistant and you didn't get to use one. So, welcome to Green and Growing. This is the podcast to help you live your best life ever, physically, emotionally, intellectually, travel, the whole bit, right? And after all, if you're not green and growing, you're ripe and rotting. So I want to welcome you guys and introduce you to my dear friend, Laura McClendon, who has been my dear friend for 15 years. Laura, say hi.
Hi.
Laura and I first met when our kids were little. And shortly thereafter, she began this thing called 30 Days of Awesomeness. And at first, I wasn't quite what she was doing. And every day there was a different adventure for 30 days. And that to me, Laura, when I look back on where your business is now, I kind of take some roots to that. Share with everybody a little bit about your 30 Days of Awesomeness.
Yeah, so 30 Days of Awesome began prior to me starting. My sister started it, and it became a thing where every summer she wanted to do something awesome 30 days in a row. And you just had, the only rule was you had to do something awesome and you had to post about it. And she invited people to join. So 12 years ago, I did that. I joined up, I started doing that. And it was just whatever you considered awesome. It's very subjective. It could be something big like skydiving. It could be something little like trying a new restaurant that's down the street that you had never been to. So I started doing that. And 12 years later, I decided it was going to be my last year. So the last year I did 35 days. So 12 times 30, 360, add 5. And I have dedicated a whole year of my life to being awesome. And it's pretty cool to go back because it was something that got you out of your comfort zone. You looked for cool things to do, fun things to do. And it was always on my mind. I had on my phone a whole laundry list of things that I could do. And it was fun. And it was fun. The most fun was inspiring other people when you would hear other people wanting to join in or do awesome things as well. So that was kind of one of my favorite parts about it, is inspiring others to do fun things.
So all you viewers out there, that is a great, great preamble as to why you need Laura McClendon as your personal travel assistant. This is somebody who over 12 years squeezed an entire extra year of life. No, she didn't get 365 more days, but she lived like nobody else for 365 days during that 12-year period. And it required planning and creativity and thought and including others. And how am I going to pay for this? And what timing schedules? If you think about it, all of these things boil into how could you be an exceptional personal travel assistant? I'm going to add one little layer, and that is she's also an accountant by trade, which means she is hyper detailed. But the funny thing is, I think I knew Laura for 5 years before I knew she was an accountant, because she was way too fun to be an accountant. No offense to you CPAs out there, but this girl is fun. She's detailed. She's done things. So we're going to dig in today and introduce you to why you need to talk to Laura for your next trip. So, Laura, the name of your personal travel assistant agency is what?
It is called Marvelous Mouse Travels.
Now, Marvelous Mouse makes me think of, I don't know, Mickey. But as you and I were talking, it's not just about Disney.
No,
Marvelous Mouse is a big thing. So share with everybody, what is Marvelous Mouse? What do you guys do? What are your strengths? Give us a little background.
Okay, so Marvelous Mouse started 10 years ago, and Carrie, who started it, she started it as a divorced mom wanting to take her kids to Disney. So she started specializing in Disney, thus the name Marvelous Mouse Travels. Since that time, 10 years later, we have 300 agents, and we did a little over $110 million in travel last year in sales. And it's all over the world. We have agents that specialize in all-inclusives in Mexico. They do Europe, we do Hawaii, we do cruises, and we're growing strong, and we've got 300 talented agents behind us.
So just to kind of recap, we've got a behemoth, a giant in the personal travel industry. 300 people on the team, $110 million. I think it's safe to say that you and your group know 100 times more about how to plan a vacation, how to most effectively pay for a vacation, how to make a vacation extra special and not just another trip. I come back to the phrase, you've been there and you've done that. And
Right.
I'm going to circle it back to real estate just for a quick moment. I encounter people all the time that ask me, hey, gee, I could probably sell my house by myself. And I say, yeah, okay. So you've sold one house in your career. I've sold hundreds. You may or may not want to lean into an expert. Well, I've been on some pretty cool vacations, but I've probably only planned about 5 to 10 on my own. You guys have planned thousands, and you have the
Correct.
collective intelligence.
Well, and the nice thing about Marvelous Mouse Travels, there are agencies out there that have thousands of agents, but they're just sort of like a puppy mill. They just kind of have, they bring them in. But our agency, the 300 agents, it's kind of like, we call it our Ohana. We call it our family, because we have our whole Facebook page with just us, where we bounce ideas off of each other. We find out information. We ask, have you had a client in the Caribbean recently? What was happening with the seaweed on the beach, and just all of that stuff. We've got people that know it, and we also like each other, so we help each other.
That's an important thing. So really, Marvelous Mouse has a culture to it that is
Correct.
collaborative, that ultimately benefits your client. Now, you touched on something there, that there are other companies that have thousands of agents, but I would say that Laura McClendon is not a travel agent. Laura McClendon is a personal travel assistant. And what are the unknown secret benefits of working with you, Laura?
So okay, so to back up, we kind of do everything for you. We price the vacations. This is kind of something that anybody would do. They would make your reservations for you. They would secure transportation. They would process your payments. They might monitor pricing for price adjustments. But for me personally, my tagline that I always use is, your vacation is my passion.
Ooh, wait, whoa. Say that again.
Yeah, that's my tagline. Your vacation is my passion.
Wow,
So
that's gold.
I get so excited about helping clients. I tell them to think of me as their personal assistant for the trip. So I have a lot of experience in travel, in party planning, in event planning, and just obviously 30 Days of Awesome, all around fun. But finding all that fun goes into every single trip that I make. So I'm always looking for the new experience, and I love sharing that with people. So even if I'm researching a new location that I haven't been to, inevitably it ends up on my list of places to go. So it's fun.
Well, and I will dare say that you do travel quite a bit. You've been to a
Yes.
lot of places, done a lot of things. And by nature, you're a very curious and inquisitive person. So it does not surprise me that you're always got your feelers out, looking for an angle, something different, something unique.
Correct.
Going back to 30 Days of Awesome. So way more than a personal travel assistant. I kind of look at it this way, people right now, forever, they have been saving for a vacation. And now more than ever, those vacation dollars have to go farther because eggs are $9 a dozen, ground beef's $12 a pound, whatever it is. I mean, it's $3.50 to fill your gas tank per gallon. So the dollar isn't going as far. So when it comes to saving for that hard-earned vacation, what you can do is really stretch that dollar further to create something. True or false?
That is true. You can do that, and you can, but it's also when you spend that money, you don't want it, you don't want to be bogged down if something goes wrong. If you can't, if something happens while you're on that vacation, you want somebody there to take the reins so you can either go on enjoying your vacation while I'm in the background trying to fix whatever's gone wrong, or if, for instance, something happens before you go on the vacation, if you've had like a sickness or an injury and you can't go, you need to be worrying about your people and your sickness and your injury. And I can be the one contacting the companies and canceling and getting refunds and doing all of that. So you want to protect your trip as well.
All right, let's take a pivot right there. That is a huge thing. And I think that's something that I would dare say our viewers really don't know, and even if they do, they don't understand. So let me back up just a minute. The viewing public, they think of a travel agent, for the lack of a better phrase, as somebody who's, sits in a little tiny office at the mall and they rat-a-tat keys and, oh, here's your flight and here's your cruise and here's your hotel and off you go and you need to pay me now plus all these other people. That is so 1970s,
Right.
so 1980s, right? I can still picture the ashtray next to the computer, the typewriter.
The posters on the wall with like, "See Austria."
Yes. I'm viewing Acapulco Divers right now. So let's shed that 1970s, 1980s. And you just touched on something that is really significant. Not only are you going to assist them in terms of the planning and something special and this and that, but there's always going to be something in the back of the mind of the person who's going on the vacation, whether they think it or not, subconsciously. What if something goes wrong? What if we miss our flight? What if they overbook the hotel? What ifs keep going, and they may not think about them consciously, but they're back there. So elaborate for a moment. One of the key secret benefits of working with Laura is that they get Laura. So go on about those protection type items, not just you, but say any reason stuff, travel insurance stuff. Let's talk about Laura first and move on to those other two.
Okay, so basically you've got me there to be the second set of eyes to look at the things to make sure, one, in advance, everything is planned in a nice little package that here's your itinerary. I have an online system that I send you an app and you get your trip in one place, your airline confirmations, your hotel, if you book excursions, your tickets are on there, all of that is in one place. So it's all wrapped up in a nice little bow. And I'm looking at it to make sure that you aren't overbooking or that everything is all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. So that's your savings there. But again, like if something happens to go wrong, if you are checking in and the room is less than stellar for whatever reason, and you need
that
to
would
move.
Never happen.
No, never. Not when I book it anyway. But no, if you get there and you have your tickets to the parks or you have a ticket to a show or something, you just go to that show and I'll be there in the background trying to fix that for you. So you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. What else? I mean,
well, you mentioned about travel insurance.
Travel insurance.
Other things that people get with you that they probably won't hear about other places or won't understand.
Well, are we talking travel insurance? Is that what?
Sure. Let's go to travel insurance.
Okay. So travel insurance is something that I used to not really think that I needed, but the longer I am in this industry, the more stories I hear about things that happen that, you know, if you're on a cruise and something happens and you have to get airlifted off of that cruise back to the mainland, I mean, you're talking like a mortgage payment. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, I mean, it's some of those things that, like, if you're investing in a trip, you may just want to pay a little bit more and make sure that it's covered.
Would you
Couple
say,
of things
go ahead.
Couple of things about travel insurance that people may not know is there is an insurance called cancel for any reason. It's called CFAR, cancel for any reason. It literally means that. It literally means you wake up, and not the day of, there is some stipulations, but 48 hours ahead, you look at the weather and see, oh, you know, the weather doesn't look that good. I don't want to go. I'm going to cancel. You'll get 75% of your money back. But there are stipulations on when you purchase that. You have to purchase that insurance within 2 to 3 weeks of your initial deposit on the trip. So there's things like that with travel insurance. There's also, you don't have to actually get insurance to be reimbursed. If you're concerned about that helicopter medical evacuation insurance and having to pay for that, you can buy insurance that will just give you extra medical and emergency evacuation without the cost of, you may not get your money back for what you spent on the trip, but you'll get that coverage. So there's different ways to do that where you can be covered for some of those big things that could happen.
So just so that I'm going to kind of put a rope around all of this to make sure I understand it, because if I can understand it, I know anybody can understand it. And that is number one, yes, I get Laura there, not only from the planning stage, but for the what ifs. All of a sudden, you know, the hotel's overbooked, the flight's overbooked, the flight gets delayed, whatever. I've got my savior in Laura back at the home desk that's going to make it all right for me. And I get to go about my vacation instead of taking 2 days out of my vacation to fix whatever the problem was. That's benefit one.
Correct.
Benefit two, you talked about travel insurance, and there are many different forms of travel insurance, I guess, is the number one takeaway. There are some stipulations as to when you need to buy it.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, if I'm also hearing you and I'm reading between the lines, it's not a matter of whether an accident will happen or a mishap or a misschedule. It's not a matter of if that's going to happen, because these happen every day somewhere all over the planet. True?
Correct.
Just like an accident in your car. Well,
Yeah.
I got insurance for that.
Yeah.
Or accident where I'm personally injured. I've got insurance for that. Some people will save $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for a trip. Well, an extra, what do you think, 10% to cover some of these insurance costs?
Yeah, I don't think 10%. I mean, and it depends on how much you want covered. Do you want,
Okay.
what are your concerns? Do you want your money back, or do you just want to be covered in the event of an emergency?
So I think it's safe to say, Laura, that in the event that something goes wrong, and something's going wrong every day somewhere, any type of cost that it costs me for the insurance or to work with you, and we're going to talk about your compensation in just a moment, it pays for itself many times over when your vacation is restored, or better yet, it doesn't get disrupted at all.
Right.
Because nobody ever comes home after a disruption, something major like we missed a flight or they didn't have our room. Nobody comes home and says, oh, it was a great trip. No, they keep talking about the problem. But if they had Laura, they could go back to talking about a great trip.
Exactly. Okay. And all the fun they had with all the fun things that I found for them to do.
Good point.
Yeah.
So let's just take a quick detour, because we've just talked about a lot of stuff that Laura does that people cannot do themselves. So how does Laura get compensated? What is Laura's professional fee include? And
Yeah.
I guess the better thing is, how do I pay it and what does it cost?
Yeah, I get this question all the time because the best part about all of that, the curating of the itinerary, the insurance of someone there to handle things, the knowledge, the expertise, that all of that, it really is free for the customer, for the client. There
Whoa,
are
come on. Did you say free?
I said free. I
That's my
said
favorite
totally
four-letter
free.
word.
That's
My
right.
favorite four-letter word, free.
It doesn't cost you. You go online, you book a hotel. I book the hotel for you. It's going to be the same, possibly cheaper, but it's going to at least be the same, but you're going to get all my services. There are some agents who charge a planning fee, and we don't do that. We get paid by the hotels, the cruise lines, the theme parks, whatever. We get paid when the client A lets us make the booking for them, and then B, they actually travel. So after the client's travel is completed, the different vendors then pay commissions out to us.
So
So
it's safe to say, Laura, that people are paying for a personal travel assistant. Now it's a
correct.
matter of whether or not they get to actually enjoy everything that Laura provides.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because
So they're not, I'm not going to write a check to you. I'm
nope.
not going to see a line item that says, Marvelous Mouse, Laura McClendon. It's going to be the same amount of money, but now
Yep.
I have basically a personal concierge that's going to make sure that my vacation includes everything that I want it to be
Yes.
and makes sure that my experience is fantastic and I'm not going to be blindsided by some mishap.
Correct.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this: where can people go if they work with you?
They can go anywhere. People always think that I just Disney because of the name. And it's not true. I've booked people to Europe, I've booked people to Hawaii, I've booked people on cruises, to New York City, to the theme parks. I do know a lot about Disney, so that's a good
So
thing.
basically, what you're saying is my vacation is your passion.
That is true. That's true.
Don't tell Lori, but I'm becoming a better listener. So who is the ideal person for you to work with?
It really is anyone. It's families. It's multi-generation, like not just like your core, like mom, dad, kids. It's multi-generational families. If you want to go on a big trip with the grandparents and the kids and the college age kids, all of that. If you want to go on a honeymoon, if you're paying for a honeymoon, you can call me up. I'll get those honeymooners at some places. It's girl trips. It's special event trips. If you're going for a big 50th birthday, it's anything you want, I can do it.
Basically, if I want a 7 days of awesome vacation,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
kind of like a 30 days of awesome, only
Right.
shorter,
I like
you could
that.
create a 7 days of awesome in
Yeah.
Chile, in Mexico, in Portugal, in Tahiti. Doesn't
100%.
matter.
I kind of like that idea. I might start using that.
7
7
days
days
of awesome.
awesome. 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
give
like
me
it.
some examples of some really cool experiences. And maybe it's just me, but I've traveled a lot and not as much in the last several years. Kids going to college kind of jumps into that budget a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am one that I am now looking at the next 20 to 30 years of life, and it's not about things. It's about
No.
experiences.
Yes.
And it's about experiences with people. So I want people out there that are listening to understand that Laura is here to create an experience, not just book a trip. So
Yeah.
take a moment, tell us about a couple of the more unique experiences, just so that people can kind of start to let their imaginations percolate as to where this could go. What are the
Okay.
unique stuff you've done?
I mean, there's a lot, but I will say my most recent trip, I went down to Antigua in the West Indies. And a lot of times when you go to the Caribbean, they kind of tell you, hey, don't go off resort. Just stay at the resort. It's safer. But in Antigua, they are an incredible island nation, and they encourage you to get off of the resort and just see what they have to offer. And there is this overlook called Shirley Heights. It's up at the top of a, I won't say mountain because here in Colorado, it's not the same thing, but the top vantage point that overlooks this island. And this is one of those islands with hills. It's not just the flat like Bahamian Islands. It's got the hills, and you're overlooking the harbor with your yachts are down there. You've got the island, and you're there for the sunset. But the coolest thing about it is it's this amazing mixture of locals and tourists. And you've got a steel drum band playing, and you're there for the sunset. And after the sunset hits, they have a band that plays, and you're dancing, and you're really experiencing a little bit of the culture. It's incredible, and something that so many people that we met at the resorts didn't even know about because they weren't getting off of the resort because they didn't know what they didn't know. So that was one. Another incredible thing is when we went to New York City, there's a observation deck called the Edge that is Hudson Yards, and it's 100 floors up, observation deck. You can stand there, check out the city. Now, there's a little extra thing that you can do called the Climb, and it is the highest open air building ascent. And so you get belayed in, you've got your helmet on, you've got you're tied. I mean, you're always connected to the building, but you're on the outside of the building climbing the steps, and then they have you sort of let go and lean back, and there's nothing. There's not a fence. There's not a railing there. You can look down and see the people about, I think it's probably 10 to 15 stories down is where the observation deck is. And you're leaning out like just New York City behind you. It's incredible.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
There's an example of something that obviously New York City, one of the most iconic cities in the entire world. I can just start naming off things, the Empire State Building, go down to Battery Park, the Statue of Liberty, go to Yankee Stadium, go to 42nd Street. I mean, you can start listing these things off, right? Don't buy a watch on the corner. But here's an example of something, everybody out there listening, that Laura has got you dialed into that you've never heard of before. So that's just one example of how this isn't a trip. It's not just a vacation. It's an experience. It's something you're going to talk about for the rest of your life.
Yep.
True? Okay.
True.
Let's shift gears for a minute. So now we got people that understand that you can, number one, you can send them anywhere in the world. Number two, they don't pay you. They're already paying for you, whether they get you or not, through any other type of travel site. Number three, you can ensure that their trip goes off without a hitch, despite the fact that things happen. And you can organize just about any trip imaginable. Pretty good so far?
Yeah, you got it.
Sounds perfect. Now, one little thing. What are the biggest mistakes that you people make? Not you people, I'm sorry. What is the biggest mistake that you see other people make when it comes to their travel?
Planning early. Planning early is so key.
Planning early is a mistake? Or
No,
not?
they don't plan early. They do not plan early enough. I feel like a broken record when I'm telling my client, planning early is key. It's, I would say 6 months out is a minimum. And I know the people that aren't planners, like that's crazy for them. You know, they don't know what they're doing next week, much less 6 months from now. But when you book early, you definitely get the best pricing, you get the best availability, and typically you can place a deposit down, grab those things, and then as things change, you can make adjustments, you can cancel, but booking early is key. The earlier, the better.
So you just hit on something that I think is lost on a lot of people when they think about planning ahead, because like you said, they don't know what they're going to do next week. But this is something a little more important than what you're going to do next week. There's a family vacation. And yeah, you can take them anywhere. You can get them to do anything. But if they don't plan ahead and all of a sudden there's something special at this place that they don't know about, but you do, or maybe they heard about something from a friend that was really special and they say, oh, Laura, we want to do this and we're leaving in 30 days. That's already booked up.
Correct.
It's not available. And you were really excited to go on this trip and experience this thing that your friends experienced, only to find out that you didn't listen to Laura and you didn't plan ahead.
Right. And then you don't,
Okay.
then you're out. So
But
you
the
don't
most
have to
important
plan.
thing though, that I saw, the most important thing was make the deposit so that you're on the inside with the ability to cancel or shift or pivot.
Yep.
If you don't plan early, you're on the outside looking in, hoping, wishing, praying that this comes to be, when you just would listen to Laura, plan ahead. Now you've got the golden ticket in Willy Wonka terms and
Yep.
still have the freedom to pivot and move.
Yeah, you want to be ahead of the wave for sure.
Okay.
And
What's
that doesn't,
another? Okay.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So big mistake, not planning ahead. What's another big mistake?
So
Is it? Go ahead.
it's sort of the other thing that I see people doing is they get excited. They'll see something on TV. They'll go, oh my gosh, I need to book this cruise. And then they book it. And then they are stuck not knowing what to do. They don't know what they don't know. They, you know, they just get, they get excited and they move without really knowing or researching or understanding what they're getting themselves into. They may not know when to make payments, how to do this, how to make arrangements, how to get from the airport to the location, any of those things. But the really good thing about that mistake is you can usually, if you have booked within 30 days, transfer that vacation to a travel agent so that then they can take over and say, so it's not the worst mistake you can make because you can still get that help. You just have to call an agent, say, can I transfer this vacation to you? And we can take it, we fill out a form, and then we can assist you with all the stuff that you get, even if you've already gotten excited and made that initial
So if I heard
deposit.
you correctly, the second biggest mistake outside of not planning is getting halfway across the river and not understanding how to get the rest of the way across the river, or gee, I wish I'd known this, or I wish I'd known that. At which point people should know they can pivot and bring you in as long as they're at least 30 days out.
Correct. And they haven't made
this
payment. Yep.
I kind of view this like Winnie the Pooh gets his head in the honey jar because he wants the honey, but he didn't think about how am I going to get back out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
And okay, so taking action without guidance and not planning ahead, big mistakes. Let's talk about myths for a minute, right? We referenced earlier the travel agent office with the big posters and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, a lot of people, I think in the last 20 years, probably haven't used a personal travel assistant. What do you think the biggest myths are that people harbor in their heads, the biggest misconceptions?
So I have a couple of those. One is the people that are actually planners, because we've been talking about the people that don't know what they're doing next week, but there are a lot of people out there that are planners. And so they think, oh, I'm a planner. I don't need a travel agency because I can plan it. But again, this goes back to the having a second set of eyes on your plans. Two quick stories. I had a client who recently booked a couple tours for her vacation, and she forwarded the confirmations to me, and I was putting them into that app that I said that I send out to all my clients.
Right.
I'm putting them in, and I realized she has booked a tour, 2 tours for the same day, same time. So I was able to see that and just adjust it for her. And we called, we got it switched, we got it all fixed up. But she wouldn't have caught it if she hadn't had that other person looking at it.
And probably wouldn't have caught it until it was right up the day of.
Correct. So that's one. And then I also have some clients that purchased their own cruise, and they showed up. This was before, I wasn't helping them on this cruise, but they showed up and they did not know all the rules and regulations surrounding that cruise. And so when they got there, they didn't have the right documentation and they were not able to board. They lost their money. They lost all their entire trip. So obviously that's something that we would know as an agency what you need to get on that cruise, and we would have been able to deter that. But finally, there is nothing better than having a cheerleader for your trip, because I can tell you from my own experience, when I go to my family and I say, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? They're all like, we don't care, Mom, just book whatever, because we know it's going to be fun. But it's so much more fun to have somebody going, yes, this is going to be great. Let's do this. And so having that person behind you, somebody to bounce ideas off of, somebody to give you ideas that you may not know about. So
I think I think back to trips that I've taken, and I've taken trips where Lori and I just planned something. Let's take it, I don't know, 10 years ago, we go here, there, whatever. And it was great. And then I think about trips that I've been on where, and then now I'm going back pre-real estate days, 20 something years ago. And I was in an industry where I had won a trip, only, I think it was 30 of us out of 300 on our sales force. And it was you and I talked about this, the Seabourn yacht between Rome and Athens. I think there's only 100 people allowed on the ship. You want a chocolate molten cake and champagne and caviar at 3 a.m, push a button. And when you arrive, there's a sign with your name on it, and you're whisked into a car, and everything just magically happens. It is so incredible. And that's what I'm viewing. The misconception out there is that people, I'm a planner, I can save a nickel, I can go on these websites, I can do this. And if I condense all that and I say, you can go with low price or you can go with big experience.
yeah,
The difference in cost is this much. Why? Because I get Laura for free. True?
true.
And I know you've been on trips like that when the red carpet is rolled out, and it's magical. I mean, I can still remember that trip, even though it was in 2003, 21 years ago. And I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it
So
made an impression.
don't trip over nickels, because it's the difference in cost is minuscule, if anything, but the experience, that's why you go on the vacation, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Final thoughts you'd like to share with people as far as what you do and how you can help them live their best year in 2025. I mean, right now we're in August. What should people be doing now?
They definitely should be thinking about Christmas, because again, people talk about, what are you giving for Christmas? What are you it's so commercial. Here's another gift. Here's another thing. And so the thing lately is, let's give an experience. Let's give a trip. That's going to be way more valuable than an iPod or,
So I just came up with two thoughts on this track. Number one, this dovetails beautifully into what you said earlier about planning early. And right now we are roughly, what, 90 days away from Christmas-ish? Not
Yeah.
quite, 120. We're 120 days away. So we're 4 months out from Christmas, and we're about 7 months out from spring break.
Yep.
So instead of getting mom and dad a pair of slippers, why not get all the kids together and pool your nickels? And maybe you're not going to afford the whole vacation, but maybe you contribute something. You call Laura and say, "Hey, Laura, I want to send mom and dad on this great trip." By the way, Sloan and Dunham, are you watching? So you could send your parents away, this or that, and mom and dad. Let's say you got college kids or seniors in high school, and you're thinking a spring break trip. They should be planning that now,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Spring break is huge and booking up already.
So right now, so bottom line is we are sitting here on September the 4th, and in another 6 weeks, it's going to be too late to do spring break because it's
Yeah.
it's probably one of
I'll
those
be able
trips
to
that's
find,
even further in advance.
I'll be able to find something, but right now you've got the best options.
Okay.
But so yes, you definitely want to get on that, start planning spring break. It's a great Christmas gift. I do want to touch on the myth that a travel agent is only there to save you money. We get a lot of calls from people saying, "Can you get me a deal? Can you get me a deal?" And I mean, there are plenty of ways that I can save you money because we do have access to special group rates that the regular consumer does not have access to. But we also have pre-knowledge of promotions that are coming. So we can be prepared to get on the ball and get you booked right at those promotions when they come out immediately. And then the other thing is, which this is key, because when you book a trip, you usually book it and then you're done. Like you think, okay, I booked this and now I don't have to worry about it until the trip comes. But what I'm doing is if you book with me, I'm watching the promotions that might affect your trip. And I'm applying those promotions, either saving you money or upgrading you. So there's lots of ways that I can save between now and then. So just putting that deposit allows me to watch that and continually save you money between now and when you go on your trip.
That might be one of the best things we've covered all day. And I'm just to kind of bring it full circle. I'm paying for a personal travel assistant, whether I use one or not. I know I can't plan it as well as Laura can. And I'm probably not going to engage in any type of preemptive protection like CFAR or travel insurance unless I have a Laura. But the best thing is, and Laura and her group may be able to save you some money here or there, but a lot of these prices are kind of set in stone. So it's not a matter of saving money, but instead, as long as the money's the same, building up a better vacation, a better experience. And one of the super cool things that you just mentioned is as soon as they make the deposit, you're on watch, you're on notice because promos are coming. And I'm busy. All right. I work 7 days a week. The only days that end in Y. I don't have time to be looking at this type of stuff. I don't even know this type of stuff is going to come down the river, but you do. And so talk about value add for your vacation dollar. That is big because you're watching out for me for the next 6 months as to, okay, let's say we booked a trip. Sorry, lightning bolt. We book a vacation and we're going to go to XYZ place, XYZ island, et cetera. And we think we're going to do all these neat things. And you're working on it. And all of a sudden, 30 days out, unbeknownst to me, because this is happening all the way around the world, there's some new awesome attraction or some new incredible restaurant that I'm not going to know about, but you are. And now you've got me on a front row seat for whatever that I never would have known about until I was right there.
Yep.
I'm not sure I understand.
My watch is talking to me. She doesn't understand.
She doesn't.
Yeah, Siri, you wouldn't.
It's too mind-blowing for her to understand. What? All of this? for free. This is
But
amazing.
wait, there's more. Laura, this has been super, super fun. I know Lori and I are looking forward to booking a trip next year that we are going to use you. Like I said, the last, 7 years, we've been writing checks big enough to strangle an elephant for college, but now it's our time. And
Yeah.
the really cool thing is that I got a pretty good idea that at least one of those trips we're going to be together, which makes me a little nervous as to who's going to protect me if you're with me.
Sometimes I wish I could go on the vacations with my clients because I'm like, I want to go and I want to like lead the charges and take them where they need to go, but I can't go on all of them.
No, Father Time's undefeated. So Laura,
Yep.
how do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can email me at laura@marvelousmousetravels.com. I'm on
Say that
Facebook.
again. Say that
Ooh.
again.
Okay, so it's Laura, Lara, at marvelousmousetravels.com. Travels with an S. They can email me. They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Instagram. They can find me on TikTok, which there's some fun stuff out there on TikTok.
Okay. Some final thoughts. Number one, when it comes to your hard-earned vacation dollar, you can go with experiment or you can go with experience. At the end of your vacation, you're human and you're going to have a moment. You're going to have a moment when we reflect back on the trip. And my question to you is, not you, Laura, but the people out there, as you're sitting on the plane to come home, are you thinking about the trip? Are you thinking about the memories? Are you thinking about the moments? And at some point, does the thought of the money come into play? I can assure you that if you are going to work with Laura, you're not going to think about the money because the trip was that much of a value. It was that much of an experience. And if you're thinking about the money after the fact, you didn't plan it right. The trip wasn't good enough to justify the money if your brain is thinking about the money. So do yourself a favor. Get a hold of Laura now. Start thinking Christmas. Start thinking spring break. Start thinking big. You only get to live this life one time. It's a one-act play. And when it's done, it's done. I'm 58. I got 20 more good years of travel as my guess. That's 7,500 days. That's all. I got news for you. I'm milking every ounce out of that by calling this girl right here, Laura McClendon. Laura's been there. She's done that. Your vacation is her passion. And now is the time to start planning Christmas. So to steal a line from Ghostbusters, who you going to call? Laura. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Laura, thank you for being here and being our guest. This has been a wonderful episode of Green and Growing. We don't want to be ripe and rotting. Live your best life. Give Laura McClendon a call. Enjoy the best vacation that you've ever had.
Thank you, Wade. Thanks for having me.
Camille, you good?
Hey.